Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Sheila Ingram. Some of you know me as Pastor Sheila. Some of you know me just as Sheila. But whatever it is, I'm your friend, I'm your girl, and I am here to chat with you. This is kind of a impromptu broadcast that I'm popping up to share with you today, and I'm hoping that you are locked in, and I pray that your heart is without walls. And listen, I want to chat with you just for a moment, and I want to be pretty much kind of transparent with you today. The Lord impressed me upon my heart to just get up and share, just to talk. And I wanted to talk about a couple of things, and how we struggle as people. We struggle silently. We struggle around people, and people don't notice it because of the expectation that people have about you, or what they think you should be or shouldn't struggle with. Or, people come with all types of narratives for you, and they come with all types of ideas and assumptions about you. And when I say you, I'm talking about the masses. I'm talking about people in general. And first of all, I'd like to say hello to all of you once again. I want to greet my dear little sister who's in the chat, the best moderator in these YouTube streets. And her name is Inania. God bless you, and good morning to you, my little sister. Those of you that are up in the bleachers, up in the expensive seats, maybe you bought a box seat, maybe you're just chilling or you're hiding in a bush. I don't know where you are, but I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you're here today to just and not just enjoy, but to realize that when nothing changes, and that we're all uniquely made, we're all uniquely wired. And I just want to chat with you just from my heart. I don't want to get deep into stuff, but I want to chat with you. That is something that chat with you about something that is so important, which is how God has wired you, and how you have to navigate through you every day, how you have to press through when you wake up and it feels like a weight is sitting on you, when your mind starts to race before you could even open your eyes, your mind is racing already. And a lot of that has to do with how you're wired, and how God has placed you uniquely in one person, right? A person of who you are. And many times people think they know you, or they think they understand you, and many times they don't, because when you look from the outside in, it looks one way, but you don't know what the internal heartbeat is, or the internal function is. And so I just wanted to share with you about overcoming the melancholy trap. And I think I'm going to segue through all of the temperaments with this, because all of us have different days. All of us go through heavy days, light days, beautiful days, challenging days, historical days. There are many things that we as humans, as people, have to carry unknowingly and knowingly. And when we run into a wall, or when we run into something and we don't know how to navigate through it, or we just don't know really how to navigate through the wiring system that is inside of us, it causes us to sometimes give the enemy a foothold, to challenge your mind, to speak doubt to you, to bring fear to you, for you to embrace what the enemy is saying, or what you are saying over what the Lord is saying. And I am one that is challenged greatly in my mind. I am a transparent person. I don't have a problem sharing with you my daily struggles, or my struggles in general. I have no issues with that, because I eat, sleep, and breathe just like you, right? It's just that we're all called to different platforms. We're called to different landing spaces. God has called us to do different things. And no matter what it is, the assignment that is attached to our lives, either we're challenged to do it, either you say yes, or either you say no. It depends on you. It depends on where you are in God, and where you are in yourself, that you override some of the things that come at you each day, or each week, or each year. There's an overriding that we must power through. I call it the powering through. So this morning I was powering through the emotions of how I'm wired. I was powering through my mental. I was powering through, and sometimes it becomes so heavy, it becomes so challenging, it becomes like a weight, and sometimes you just have to stop, pause, and reflect and try to figure out, how do I navigate today? How do I get through this feeling? How do I move past this and segue into the space and place that God has called me to do and be for the moment or for the hour or for the day? And many times, because we are humans, no matter, I don't care how long you've been a believer, I don't care how long you've been saved, listen, you're still human. You still go through whatever you go through. The thing is, you may just get through more easier or better than the next person based on how you're wired. But no one can say that they don't go through mentally. No one can admit that they don't have challenges in their mental. No one can admit. And if you do, then, God bless you. But when you're authentic and transparent with yourself, now you don't have to be like me and get on a platform and talk about it. You don't have to talk about it. You can just deal with it and acknowledge it. And if you can hear me okay, and then you could put a 1 in the chat if I'm okay, if everything is good. And so when you wake up and you find things resting on you, when you find you resting on you, when you find you resting in your mind, and you're challenged with moving weights off of your heart, you're challenged with moving things out of your mind, you need to understand that a lot of it has to do with how the wiring system is in you and how God wired you. We all have a system. God has a system. The universe and how God designed this earth is a system. Everything is a system. And so with us as people, we are created, and God has placed a system in us, and he has placed these landmarks and places and spaces in us that we have to navigate through on our own sometimes. And sometimes, you're challenged when you wake up. Sometimes you're in the middle of the day, all hell can break through. Many times God is calling you to do something. Many times, thank you, Innate. Many times people, come into your space and challenge you, challenge your strength, challenge your emotions. And when you don't really be intact and on point with yourself, I should say, it's not an easy walk. It's not an easy walk. And again, every day is a different day. Every day you wake up. Some days you wake up, like I said, today, I had to power through. There's many days I have to power through because of how God wired me. And as long as I can bring that tape up, as long as I can stop, pause, and reflect and remember it when I feel what I'm feeling, that it's because of how my wiring system. And when the enemy comes along and tries to tap into the wiring system, right? He taps in and he tries to find those spaces that he can kind of edge way in to cause you to have a heavy moment or to not be able to do the things that God has called you to do or what your assignment may be. You may work in corporate, you may work in the hospital, you may be a housewife, you may be a construction worker, you may be a teacher. Whatever it is that God has designed you and purposed you to do when you're walking out your purpose, you are still a human being. No matter how strong people expect you to be, no matter how right people expect you to be, you have to have the expectation within yourself to power through. And sometimes people's narratives definitely does not match really who you are. Many times we're so guilty of looking at people from the outside and thinking we know them, thinking we know what they're thinking because of what they managed to walk through or get through. No, it's deeper than that. The wiring system is such a deep dive inside of each of us. And many times we get challenged and the wiring system gets tangled up. And sometimes we get confused and sometimes we get tired. Sometimes we're like, done. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to go there anymore. I don't want to talk anymore. I just want to be alone, or I don't want to be around certain people anymore, because at a certain point in our lives, we need to have an influence and an infusing of positivity that is constantly drawing near to us, because sometimes we need that environment of encouragement. And sometimes people think, oh, Sheila, you don't need encouragement. You're good. You talk to people, you go here, you go there, you travel here. That has nothing to do with the person of who I am. And I've always mentioned to you that doing these broadcasts, being on YouTube, being on a stage singing or talking or teaching or whatever. That's what we do. That's what I do. That is not who I am. Who I am in the heart of who I am, many people don't know because people bypass that. They bypass the trueness of who you are because of the things you do or because of what you have, and sometimes it becomes so superficial, right? So that's why it's so important for us to be intact with ourselves, to be involved in ourselves, to know what is going on the inside. My glasses seem to be so foggy. And so today, I wanted to share with you. I was encouraged this morning by a sister friend of mine. She's a pastor, and she was doing a live on Facebook. And I tap into her live sometimes because, sometimes you just need to support other people. But in that supporting, God has a word for you. God has encouragement for you. That's why we should be able to receive from anyone. We should be able to receive from a child. God will send a word through anyone just to get you out of a space, to push you back into what your purpose, to push you back into the space and the place that he's trying to get you to. So what the title of this is when your mind speaks louder than God's voice, and your mind will shout louder sometimes than God's voice. Your mind will shout at you and and talk to you and try to push back down the very thing that God is calling you to do. And I wanted to share with you today about overcoming those voices that come louder than God, that speaks louder or tries to silence the voice of God, right? Because he wants to trap you off. And when we're talking about temperament, many of you know that that is one of the things I've studied so thoroughly because I understand of how it gives so much volume of understanding to the wiring system of so many people. And people are wired differently. People have strengths and weaknesses. And when we live out of our strengths, sometimes we just kind of lay the weaknesses on the side. Maybe your strengths is so powerful. You look right, you teach right, you work right, you give influences, you run meetings, you speak in seminars, you do all these things. And yes, that is a part of what you're called to do. And that is a great thing that you have that strength. But we have weaknesses lurking in the bushes that is trying to itch up and inch up in you. And so we have to pay attention when the voice of God is being overshadowed by the voice of your temperament and your wiring system. Some of you know that I've told you in Psalm 139, the book of Psalm 139, it tells you that you're beautifully, wonderfully made. It tells you that God wired you in your mother's womb. That's powerful in itself. The wiring system, he knitted you. That means there's a system inside of us. And so for me, I just wanted to share with you today. I wanted to just tell you, I struggled today. I struggled yesterday. And sometimes I have to okay, what's going on, Sheila? What's going on? And before I get into a deep dive, I have to kind of power myself out. I got to intentionally power myself out. And so I know that I am not the only one that that is challenged like this, because there's all of us with different temperaments. And today we're talking about how do you power through when you're a melancholy? How do you power through when the voice of your mind, your situation, your circumstances is trying to shut down the voice of God? And so I want to just share a little bit with you, and I hope this blesses you. I pray that you will get something from this. I'm going to come back and do all the other temperaments, because each person, let me tell you, you can say you're not challenged. You can say you got it all together. You can say I'm good, but life be life and it be life and big. And when it does, it knocks on your door and you are challenged. And based on the wiring system and how you were designed is based on how you probably will navigate through it or stay stuck. Yeah, stay stuck, because that's the goal of the enemy, to keep you stuck. So I want to talk about the melancholy dynamic, the strength versus the voice of doubt. Okay, let's go. I want to set it up to explain to you the God-given strength and how the weaknesses, listen to me, mimics doubt and overrides faith. I said weaknesses mimics, listen, doubt and overrides faith. And we don't need anything tampering with our faith. Amen. So I want to share with you about the analytical and the detail oriented melancholy and how it works and how it comes and how it shapes, how it shows up. And it doesn't mean, because remember, I have taught you that there is no one person with one temperament, because God blended us in so many different fabrics. And so there's a fabric. He says, I knitted you in your mother's womb. That means there's different wiring, different colors. And that's what happens when you dig into the temperament. And so when we think about the melancholy, I want you to think about, if you're thinking about, well, what am I as a temperament, right? Well, you could be a blend, right? But there's always a dominant number when you find out your temperament. There's always a dominant, right? So you may be a 24 in a melancholy and a 22 in a phlegmatic. You may be a 25 and a sanguine and be a 21 or a 18 and a melancholy. My point is that there is a blend. And when we don't take time to understand the blending of God that abides within us, then we won't be able to what? Power through. And we have to power through, because each day brings something different. Each day brings something different. And based totally on how you're wired, listen to me, is based on how you will manage to power through and get to the other side, to where God is trying to get you, where you don't abort the plans and purposes that he has placed in you, that you don't abort that thing he's trying to get you to do. Okay, so the analytical and detail oriented, it turns into a overthinking. With melancholies, it turns into a overthinking. It demands to know how everything will work before taking a step. Those are people with analytical minds, right? God says walk by faith, not by sight. But the wiring system says, no, I'm not going to walk by faith. I'm going to walk by sight, because your mind is connected with your temperament. And then it manifests in you overriding what God wants you to do, right? You don't see it, but you got to believe it. And so it turns into this overthinking. And when you're an analytical person, you will always be in your head. I said you'll always be in your head. And it's a challenge to shut down the voices of your head and of your mind. What about the deep and reflective? We're talking today about how to get unstuck and how to overcome the melancholy trap, because it can become a trap. It sure can become a huge trap. And so the deep and reflective with this, it turns into introspective and analysis paralysis. It can paralyze you. Your mind can speak so loud that it can paralyze you. And so introspective and the analysis paralysis. So you get so caught up in examining, listen to me, your own unworthiness or readiness, that you miss the green light from God. Because analytical people constantly are in the head. They're in your head, and you're thinking about what you do right, what you don't do right, how I should do this. This shouldn't be like this. The analytical system, because of how God wired you. So there is nothing wrong with you. People say, well, what's wrong with me? There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. It's just that you have to be in touch and understand how the system, the analytical system, and how God wired you. And so today, as we talk about overcoming the melancholy trap, because the melancholy can be a big trap for many, many people. So it turns into this introspection, right? Amen. And you get caught up in examining. Listen to me, I'm going to say it again. You get caught up in examining your own unworthiness or readiness, that what? You miss God. You miss the green light. You miss the information. You miss the download. Because of why? The wiring system, and you're in your head. You're in your head. So here's something, the cautious and quality driven. Listen to me. It turns into fear of failure when you're in your head so much and doubt seeps in, right? I don't care who you are, what you think you are, what title you have. You are wired. There's a wiring system in you. And when you're analytical, so analytical that it's a battle between what God says and you say, it turns into fear, because you've allowed yourself to sit long enough into something that God is trying to push you out of. Why? Because he wired you to be. And analytical people are wonderful people. They are structured. They're the people that run meetings. They're the ones who can get people out of ditches. They're people because they're thinkers. But sometimes even in that, you can turn on yourself. So it turns into fear of failure and perfectionism. Oh my God, that word, perfectionism. Woo, that's a word that haunts so many people, being perfect. Oh my God, I didn't do it right. How did I mess up? How did I say that? Why didn't I walk this way? Oh my God, I was in the office in the meeting. Why did I say that way? Why did I go that way? I should have went left. I should have said, oh my, and you tear yourself into pieces when you feel like you've made a mistake. You tear yourself into pieces because the expectation of what you expect of yourself, you have you have let yourself down. But that's not what God is and who God is. You have to understand that you are human, and the way that he wired you, there's a system. All right. So I want you to know that if there's a risk, listen, we say, oh, don't move. There's a risk. Listen to me. Turns into fear, failure, and perfectionism. The mind says, if it can't be done perfectly, if there's a risk, don't move. Don't move, Sheila. You need a green, don't move. God didn't already gave me the green light, but I'm over here, right? I'm over here in this part of my brain. No, because now I'm so analytical. I am dissecting the green light. I'm dissecting, no, well, if I move and it doesn't work, or if I go and they don't show up, or if I do this and no one buys my book, if I write the book, is anybody going to read the book? These are things that will challenge an analytical mind, right? So if there's a risk, we say, okay, let's wait. Let me pause. Don't move. It creates what I call a drawback spirit. You don't drop everything, but you kind of just lean back, you lean back, you draw back. And so we want to be able to flow. And I'm being so transparent today because I don't have a problem being transparent, because you know, and I know that the mind is powerful, and the way that God has wired us, it's unique. But let me tell you something, it's work. It is work to navigate and power through. So we acknowledge that God wired us with our temperaments, but our minds are not meant to rule our spirit. Sheila, your mind is not meant to rule your spirit. Sheila, your mind is not meant to rule your spirit. People, your mind is not meant to rule your spirit. And when our innate wiring system, right, speaks louder than God's current instruction, I said the word is instruction, we experience a spiritual standstill. That's right. You can be in a spiritual standstill because you're analytical. You're challenging what God is saying. You're challenging what you're saying. So now your mind is all over the place. There's a lot going on up there. And sometimes you just have to stop, pause, and reflect on what God is saying. He's given you the green light. Why are you challenging what he said? Because of your insecurities? You're challenging what God is saying because you feel I can't do it? Or you challenge it because it doesn't look the way you would do it? God has given you the green light. Why are you challenging the Lord, right? Why are you challenging yourself? So there's a conflict when wiring becomes a weapon. When wiring becomes a weapon, say that. When wiring becomes a weapon. All right. So here it is that I'm going to share with you, and then I'm going to get out of your way. So the melancholy mind is designed by God to be a deep well. Sit in that for a moment. We're talking about the temperament. Today, we're talking about the melancholy trap. And we started this, if you're just tuning in, we're starting this because I'm exposing myself and what I'm dealing with and have dealt with, for the last few days or whatever, right? And I have to power through my temperament in order to get to the other side of what God is trying to get me to do or say, instead of me doubting myself or bringing fear up or allowing the enemy to speak when God has given the green light. He's saying, Sheila, I set it up already, but I'm so in a perfectionist way. I'm like, yeah, but this is not done yet. And I need to do this. And he's saying, no, I got you. And I'm saying, so there's that conflict. And so the mind of a melancholy melancholy is like a deep, deep well, a planner, a visionary. And sometimes melancholies do not know how to turn their mind off. They do not know because it's an analytical powering system. And God is trying to say, hello, hello, I'm over here. Listen, hello. And your mind, because you got it, you're moving. You're a thinker, you're a planner. And then what happens is it becomes a standstill because you miss God. You miss the green light because of what? The fear of losing, the fear of not being perfect. And we have to learn about ourselves. We have to understand and how to power through even in our own self. We talk about the strengths and the weaknesses, right? The strengths and the weaknesses. So I want you to know that because it is so highly analytical, the melancholy mind is so highly, I said highly analytical. It tries to solve, listen, supernatural problems with natural logic. Okay, let me stop and pause. Oh my. Did you hear me? My Lord. I just said to you about the melancholy. It's so highly analytical. It tries to solve supernatural problems with natural logic. This is so important. Those of you may be sitting out there saying, oh my God, that sounds like me. Oh my God, that's why I'm the way. That's why I go through what I go through. It's my temperament speaking and yelling, and I don't understand my wiring system. There's nothing wrong with me. It's nothing wrong with me. I'm telling you, there is nothing wrong with you. You just have to understand how your wiring system. So what the key point is here is that doubt isn't always a lack of faith. I want to let you point that out. That doubt is not always the lack of faith for a melancholy. All right? It is not. Doubt is just the mind trying to override the spirit. Listen, because it can't figure out the math of what God is doing. Woo, 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 woo. Did you hear me? Did you hear me? Okay. I heard you in the back. You said, say it again. Say it again, Sheila. I said, doubt isn't always the lack of faith. We're talking about the melancholy, the analytical mind of a person who has a melancholy trait, right? You may be a melancholy, sanguine, phlegmatic. You got 3 going on, but the melancholy may be the top one. It may be the one that is the overriding factor in your temperament. And so doubt isn't always a lack of faith. Sometimes for melancholy, doubt is just the mind trying to override the spirit because it can't. Here we go with the analytical, right? It can't figure out the math of what God is doing. So that's the challenge that a melancholy has in the temperament, or those of us or those of you who do have melancholy as a dominant factor in your makeup of your temperament. You're challenged to deal with these types of things. Oh my God, that is so, so powerful. Oh my God. And what about the drawback spirit and shutting down the mind? What about that, Sheila? Okay, let's address it. Let's address the drawback feeling, right? I told you I've been challenged lately. And this is not anything new for me because I've been a melancholy since I came out the womb, right? And even as babies' behaviors, when they're in a crib, you can have a melancholy child and have a sanguine baby, a sister and a brother, and the melancholy's behavior is going to be that baby's going to respond totally differently from the sanguine's behavior, right? 2 children in the same house, right? But because they're wired differently, the melancholy will probably be off on the side playing by themselves. The sanguine child will probably be wanting to go outside to play with kids and people. Melancholies don't need people. They love people, but they don't need people. Sanguines need people and love people. That's why you have to be so careful that you don't violate yourself and you don't allow people to come into your life and violate you. So let's get back to the drawback feeling. The melancholy will pull back into their head Analyzing the risk. Okay, let me think about the risk before I do it. Let me think about the risk before I cross the street. Let me think about the risk before I put my money over here. Let me think, and it's good. That's why it's not always a bad thing, right? It's not always a bad thing. But until fear paralyzes them, because melancholies can be paralyzed. That's why the name of this is Overcoming the Melancholy Trap. You need to understand your wiring system. You need to understand the blend, the beautiful blend. There is no bad temperament, no good temperament, bad temperament. They're just different temperaments and different blendings in all of us. And when we don't pay attention or learn, you'll be on a wheel just going around and around and around. That's why I'm telling and sharing with you these last days, even these last weeks, I've been on this wheel, and it's been on this melancholy, trying to entrap my mind, entrap the decisions that I'm making, causing me to question myself over and over when God has already said it, right? But again, we're human, right? Okay, so we give ourselves grace, but we still have to understand the mechanism and the systems that is inside of us. So that drawback spirit and shutting down the mind, we're addressing that. The feeling, the melancholy will pull back into their head, analyzing the risk until, say until, I heard you, until fear paralyzes them. Oh, yeah. That's why I say you can't judge a book by its cover. You can't say you know certain people because you've been around them and you've been their friend. If you haven't cared enough to understand the people you're around, and if you haven't cared enough to understand when something is going on with a person that you're around all the time, something's wrong with that. That means you have a superficial relationship. That means you're not loving the person enough to understand just because they have degrees and have great titles and have great jobs and do great things, that they don't feel like the average person who just does ordinary normal things. There's no good or bad, no high or low. But when you don't understand people that you're around, you miss. That's why sometimes you miss God, even in friendships where a friend needs you, but you're saying, nah, I don't want to say anything because she taught me, and she's older than me, and no. You got to be able to look deep and just notice different signs, really red flags, green flags, and people that God has placed you in. Many times people that have deleted themselves were around people. Many times people who deleted themselves were around family, were around coworkers, right? And I'm not saying you're supposed to have this magnifying glass looking in a person, but when you love and when you care, there should be signs when a person that used to talk a lot doesn't, when a person used to sit with a group find themselves isolated, when a person that you spoke to every day, now you're speaking once a month, things like that, where we don't check in on people, and all the time the temperament and how the wiring system is in them have shut them down, have paralyzed them, and they stopped learning or didn't know how to navigate through. I hope this is helping somebody. So let me get through with this because it's helping me. It takes a lot to override the mind. It takes so much to override the mind. It does. It really, really does. It requires an intentional, on purpose. I said intentional, on purpose act that you have to do within yourself. Power through it. Power through it. Get through it. If God says, watch this or call this person, they may have the key to unlock that moment that you're going through. I told you this morning, I turned on Facebook and saw a dear friend of mine, a pastor, and she was just talking about, don't let age stop you. Don't think that you're not worthy. Don't think that God has stopped giving you things to do. Don't think this. Don't think that. She just kept saying, don't think this. Don't say that you can't. Don't say, she started talking, and I'm like, okay. Now, mind you, if I'm already waking up heavy and I'm already thinking, okay, I got to power through because I'm not feeling great. I got to get out of this mood. I got to push this thing off of me. And her speaking, right? And everyone on the live know I'm a pastor, but you think because I'm a pastor and I have a title that I'm not in a group of people and I become as they are, as learners, as where I get an encouraging word. Sometimes titles mess people up. People are into titles and not into towels. They're into titles, not towels. And if you're not into towels, if you're not into learning how to be something in a humble space, in a humility place, then you're just into a superficial title and think that everything is okay and you can't expose yourself or be vulnerable, right? And so I want you to know that it requires an intentional, sometimes painful effort to arrest your thoughts, to arrest your thoughts, to arrest your thoughts. We have to arrest our thoughts, because this thing up here, no good thing dwells. No good thing dwells, because this is the place the enemy wants to shout, talk, and cause to trip you up, to entrap you. Because if you give him access and you think long enough up here about something that is not pleasant, if you think long enough up here about mistakes that you've made, if you think longer up here about what you didn't do right, if you allow that to camp out in your mind, it will segue down into your heart. It will segue down into your emotions, and then your behavior will follow suit. And that's why you have to dispute it with the word of God. You have to power through it before you get to that point where you've accepted the total emotion. You have to short wire it, short circuit it. We are all human. I don't care what title you have. I don't care where you sit. I don't care. You could be in the White House. You could be in a valley. You could be in a high place. God said that he's going to make the crooked places straight. He said that he was going to cause us to come up out of the valley. And when we come up out of the valley, as we hear the voice of what we should be doing, you get your voice in the valley. Just don't stay trapped off in that deep space where you stay stuck and be entrapped by your own wiring system. Oh my God. Oh my God. So I want to let you know that it takes a lot to override the mind. It takes such a powerful decision, on purpose, intentional decision to override the mind. It requires an intentional. Sometimes it's painful. Sometimes you're in a dark season. Sometimes you've been betrayed. Sometimes you've been abused. Sometimes you're walking through a storm. Sometimes, and you don't have the strength. The wiring system that God placed in you has collapsed because of that thing that is resting on you, that thing that is sitting on you. And if you are a melancholy or have a melancholy dominant trait in your temperament, the melancholy agrees with the downtroddenness, because melancholies are analytical. Melancholies suffer with depression. Melancholies have to fight through so many different channels of system in them in order to get to that place called there, because that's how they're wired. And I talked about the strengths and the weaknesses, and that's one of the weaknesses. And we have to power through. You have to power through. Amen. All right. So let me end this by saying the victory, the melancholy victory, and how to override the mind. Let me tell you, override it, my sisters and my brothers. Override it. Practical, spiritual keys to shift right now out of your head and into the spirit. Number one, I want you to trade the blueprint for the step. Listen to me. Trade the blueprint for the step. Listen to me. Melancholies want the whole 10-step plan. Yes. Yep. We want it. We want to know how we're going to do it. Let me see the color. What's the fabric? We want it. We want to see the beauty of it. We want to feel it. We're artists. Melancholies are painters and music people. They're artistic. So, us artistic people can be into this bubble sometimes because we're very, we're out there. But listen to me. Trade the blueprint for the step. Melancholies want the 10-step plan. God usually gives one step. What you going to do with that, Sheila? What you going to do with that, my sister, my brother? God will give you one step. I want 10 steps, Lord. Show me the whole plan. I know I can do it because you said I'm capable. You said I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. You said I can do all things. You said it. So give me the 10 steps. Give me the 10 steps. Well, you have to give yourself, and I got to give myself. I have to give myself permission to move without knowing the end of the story. And it can be scary. I said it can be scary. I got to say, Sheila, go ahead and move. Go ahead and do the thing that he gave you the vision for. He told you to do it. He gave you the whole diagram. He gave you the plan. But see, here I go. Yeah, but I get inside the plan and be like, yeah, but what about what's over here? If I go to the right way over there, what's that part of the plan? That's me, right? That's a melancholy. That's one of you out there that have a dominant number, and the melancholy is your dominant temperament. You may be a 23 in melancholy, a 15 in choleric, a 10 in phlegmatic, but that melancholy is the dominant one. That's the one that pushes. That's the one that's always talking. The other ones help you out. The blend helps you out, and that's what takes me off of the bridge sometime and the ledge. The other temperaments show up for me. They show up and they cause me to have a little fluid. A little fluid. You need a little fluid moving to help you understand what I just said. The 10-step plan you're looking for, God usually gives the 1 step. So I have to give myself permission, right? I'm being authentic and transparent today, right? Because this was about me and about you. I'm just sharing with you about this day I'm living in today. I'm just sharing with you that I got to power through and overcome the melancholy trap. Listen, give yourself permission to move without knowing the end of the story. That's trusting God. That is faith. That is faith. Number 2, answer the mind with the word. Whew, that's what happened today. I answered my mind with the word. Oh my God. Stop, pause, reflect. Yes, I did. Yes, you did. Yes, you will. Yes, you are. Answer the mind with the word. When the mind says, what if it fails? Ooh, that's a big one. What if it fails, God? What am I gonna do? What if it fails? Or I'm not ready. I'm not ready. God already gave you the plan, gave you the format, gave you the formula, and you saying, I'm not ready. God's not going to download something to you if you're not ready. He's going to hold it up. He's going to hold it up in the realm of the spirit until he sees you're ready to receive it and handle it. But no. They're overcoming the melancholy trap, right? Remember, it's talking, it's yelling, it's screaming. Why? Also, because the enemy doesn't want you to what? Do the plans and purposes. The enemy doesn't want you to give birth to the very thing that God has already set you up to do. So what happens? Because of your temperament. That's why you got to always power through. I think I froze for a moment. Aren't ready. Talk back to your temperament. I talked back this morning. I talked back with the word. I moved me out of the way and I talked back. I talked back. Yes, I did. So when you talk back, this is number 2, answering the mind with the word. You have to talk back to your temperament. You cannot, listen to me, you cannot fight a thought with a thought. All right, sit in it. Sit in it. You cannot fight a thought with a thought. You have to fight it with a spoken word. With a spoken word. Not in your spirit. You got to speak it out. Because remember, the battle is within. So you can't have the conversation on the inside with you. You got to speak it out, right? You got to speak it out, because this is when your mind speaks louder than God's voice, right? So we have to shut down the mind of the voice of the mind, right? So if you do that, you got to speak it out. Number 3, the command to stand still or go forward. Sometimes the hardest thing for a deep thinker to do is quiet, oh God, quiet the noise enough to hear the still small voice. And so for some of you out there that always hear me say I'm a worshiper, the worshiper, I get my breakthrough through worship. I be on my face. I'm a bona fide worshiper. I want to go into the inner courts. I want to go to the Holy of Holies. It's because of how I'm wired. It's because the intimacy that I have internally, I need to connect with the intimacy of the Father. Mm, mm. You must connect with the intimacy of the Father. And so many times I'll say, that still small voice, that still small voice, that still small voice. That's what you want to hear. And as I finish this up, remember just to stand still and go forward. God gave a mind to serve his purpose. I gave my mind to serve his purpose. Mm-hmm. Negotiate his promises, not to negotiate his promises. God gave you a mind to serve his purposes and his purpose, not to negotiate his promises. His promises are yes and amen. And when your temperament says draw back, lean back, lean back. When your temperament tells you to draw back or lean back, your faith must command you to step forward. Your faith, forget how you feel, forget how your analytical mind is saying this, that, left, right, fear, faith. Listen to me. Your faith has a voice. Faith has a loud voice. It speaks loud when you open your mouth and command. Many of you know we command the morning many times on these channels, on the Sheila Ingram Ministry channel and the Bravo with Sheila. We command things because we can speak. Death and life is in the power of the tongue. So with you, it resonates with me with how my temperament says draw back, but my faith says move forward. It resonates with me. It bridges the gap between how we are psychologically put together and we are spiritually led. How we are psychologically put together, but how we are spiritually led. I hope that this blessed you. I pray that you will continue to power through, that you will continue to understand the wiring system. The wiring system, how God. All right. I was spinning and freezing and spinning and freezing. But we got, there we are again. It's not a good day in this house with the Wi-Fi. I want you to think about picking up The Faded Stain. It's my memoir. Go ahead and pick it up on Amazon. Pick it up on Ingram Spark. Pick it up. This book is, it's a lot of truth in this book. All truth. It's the memoir, The Faded Stain. And as you can see, the background says Heart Without Walls. And that's the movement that I am on now. The Lord has downloaded Hearts Without Walls. We must break down the walls and break down the bars that hold us captive in our hearts. So, anyway, I want to say thank you so much for being here. Remember, when nothing changes, nothing changes. God bless you. I'll see you again. Ciao. Take care. Bye bye.
Control, feeling so alone in this inner city life. Murder creeped in, left me with 2 babies. Hey, my husband died in a street fight. Keep it moving, keep it moving. Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. Keep it moving, keep it moving. Possibilities always facing me, yeah. Street lights blinding me. Hey, couldn't let the ghetto stay in me. Had to break free. It's the power of God in me. Oh, social situations, poverty-stricken nations. Don't force that world in me. No. Economic conditions, underprivileged children. I saw it all, I lived it all. Break free, hey. Keep it moving, hey. Keep it moving. You gotta move, don't stop. You gotta move. Keep it moving, keep it moving. Street corners filled with undisclosed dealings. Hustlers, pimps, girls, and boys with no vision. People perish for a lack of knowledge. Don't give up, don't give in. You gotta break free and keep it moving.